Stressed. All right. So I think, yeah, so it's recording. All right,
Yay.
girlfriend. So, uh, let me scroll. So go ahead and let's just start with tell me your name, spell it for me, your age, your pronouns.
All right. My name is Maya Richardson, Mayarichardson. Spelling my name out loud is so scary, but I did it. I'm 23 and my pronouns are she, her, but sometimes I explore she, they, but that scares me. But I'm trying to do more things that scare me.
Okay.
But it feels more right, I think.
The the latter or the former?
The
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, she, they.
And then so let's talk about where you're at and where you grew up.
So I'm in Minneapolis. I was born in Minneapolis, but I grew up in the burbs, a little city called Blaine. Yeah,
What made you come back
very.
to the city?
So actually, I wanted to move to New York City, because I have my degree in musical theater, and I was on tour with Nickelodeon, and then the pandemic happened, and I got shipped home. And I was literally like, my dream. I'm gonna move to New York. This is gonna be my thing. I want to get out of Minneapolis. It was like that classic like coming of age story where the kid
Hmm.
was like, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I ended moving back in with my parents for a little bit, and then I was like, I want to have my own place in Minneapolis, and I'm kind of like falling in love with the city again. So, and the
Yeah.
theater scene. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, cool. Um, and your ethnicity? What's
I don't know my ethnic background, but I racially identify as Black or mixed.
okay. And then your social media handles?
At my Richardson, but instead of SON, it's SUN. And I
Okay.
think that's Instagram and Twitter and TikTok.
You're like, I think.
Yeah,
What's your main platform that you use?
Instagram.
Okay. And ma'am, can you describe yourself in one sentence?
In one sentence. Um, I am ever changing and ever flowing.
Okay, love that. Love
One sentence.
that. So going right into that, um, what do you feel representation means to you?
To me, I could talk about representation for so long. Um, I think it's so much just to the importance of identity and feeling seen and heard. And I think just how simple it is for like a little girl to see herself on the TV or to see her story can just bring a sense of power and
Yeah.
a sense of self to someone. And I think it's so important just in your growth and everything.
Yeah. And so do you feel like you feel represented in your community, whatever communities that may be, or in media, speaking on that, like seeing, do you see yourself on TV? Like, can't, like somebody that looks like you?
I would say growing up, I didn't, or I think like the versions of myself that I feel true to myself, whether it's like, um, if it was someone super, super feminine or girly, it was never someone who looked like me. If it was someone like super goofy and like just could be silly, it was like had to be a boy. Like all of the attributes that I felt never were assigned to a Black woman or a mixed woman. Like we had to be kind of a certain thing. And I think now things are shifting a little bit. I think Netflix now is loving to use a little mixed girl in like anything.
Yeah, yeah.
It would like expand and maybe use some dark skinned people. I would love for that to happen. But I think I'm like fortunate because I'm starting to see myself, I guess, visually, but I don't know. It's taking a little bit to get some more nuance into people of
Sure.
color in general in me.
And how about in your community, like whatever that may be, right? If you're part of clubs or you said the theater, do you feel
Oh,
seen there?
in the theater, so I have a BFA in musical theater and a minor in dance. And in my program, there were probably like 5 of us that were people of color.
Hmm.
Out of like the program, it's a pretty small program, but like if the program in its entirety was like 70 people, there'd be like 5 of us that were people of color. And it was kind of a constant realm of being like gaslit into our feelings, or not being heard, or again being like placed into boxes, or just kind of being written off because our professors didn't know where we belonged. No one told us where we belonged, which is something I'm kind of learning, is like you can't just wait for a community to tell you where you belong.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to kind of, sometimes you have to decide it, or just discover it. But I think I felt like very silenced for a lot of my time within theater. And even growing up in the suburbs, it was a very primarily white area for a lot of my life. And even now, I've kind of, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I've been saying, so recently I'm realizing I don't really have a lot of friends, Black friends or people of color friends in the area in Minneapolis. Like I have friends that because of my theater program, people kind of live all over the place. Okay. And now, especially because we're in a pandemic, like I can't see anyone, and I'm like, oh wow, like I really miss that like absolute sacred connection that is within people of color and queer people of color and artists. It just feels like it's kind of,
I feel that for sure. I definitely, everything you're saying, it's definitely interesting to me how you're able to identify that, because hearing you say that, I totally understand, because I think it's very easy as, people coming of age, to feel kind of like you're thrown into this world and it's like, where do I go? Who are my people? Who sees me for me? Who wants to appreciate me for what I am? And it's interesting. When do you think you came to that realization of like, of really identifying, hey, this box doesn't fit me, or you're just kind of shoving me to the side, but I'm so much more. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah. That's such a good question. Because I feel like I'm still kind of every day like uncovering different things. But I think I started to notice when I was just like very tired of feeling uncomfortable or like quiet, and I know that is not me. Or like I know that is not actually. Oh, I just thought of a little story that made me think of this. My mom, one time when I was really little, she was doing my hair. I must not have been like super little. Actually, I think I was in like middle school, and it was a lot of insecurity about like having curly hair, and I wanted to straighten it every day, and I wanted to look like all of the white girls in my class, or like the white girl in the movie that was my favorite movie that I wasn't. And I remember she looked at me and she was like, what happened? When you were little, you were so confident and you like loved yourself and you loved your curls. And I think there was one day that I like really thought about that, and I was like, yo, what happened? like really what happened? And like, what is stopping me from like living abundantly and
and appreciating everything that you are and your curls.
Oh, for the girls, absolutely. Yeah, it's just it's such a interesting journey, and I feel like I have a different thing to say about it every day.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, how you described yourself, like ever flowing. It's I feel personally like my perception is always changing. You learn new things every day, so yeah, that's normal, right?
Just realizations. It's cool. Sometimes it's like really painful and I'm sad, but sometimes it's very beautiful and like exciting to kind of break through stuff.
And I feel like that's kind of like life, right? Like the irony.
Yeah, everything. I'm in this mindset right now that I'm like, everything is a coming of age movie for me right now.
You're like, where's my soundtrack? What
like,
sound?
I do have a Netflix or a Spotify playlist that's like my own Netflix coming of age.
Yeah, I bet. You're like adding this to the playlist right now.
Like, and when I think of watching even my favorite like coming of age things, it's like, a lot of what I think I'm kind of going through right now as someone who's 23, just graduated, is like the typical like coming of age thing. But we never see the movies with the layers of like also being like a Black woman and exploring sexuality and exploring gender and all these other things. Like there's I feel like we don't get that the complexity of being people of color showcased at all.
Well, and how do you even do that? Right? Can you imagine trying to, like, that's not a movie. I feel like that's like a series. Like you can't put that in a movie.
But then it's like on the other hand too, I want people of color to just be allowed to be people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, really, which I think is a whole other, I don't know, important thing that's just missing.
Totally. Ugh, I feel you, girl. Um, so when you think of, who you are and just kind of exploring, who is Maya? What does Maya, what encompasses Maya? What kind of traits, and you already talked about it, like your theater, you love theater.
Yeah.
What makes you feel the most alive?
That is such a good question. A big one.
Yeah, sorry. I'm telling you, there's some are a little more thoughtful.
Funny because I think I'll sit here and be like, wow, I don't know. And then I'll like immediately speak for like 5 minutes.
That's what
like
I want. That's what I want.
I think what makes me feel alive a lot of times is really, really tiny moments. I'm thinking of one moment in particular. It was when I was on tour and I was in San Antonio, Texas. And it was the first time we'd gotten somewhere where it had been warm after a while. And I remember I had like a shirt that this part of my body, my chest, I guess. I always think this is called the développage, and I don't think it is. I just think I like to say that.
Okay.
Sounds pretty.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I like it. I don't know, but sure.
But I just remember feeling like warm breeze like on my skin for the first time in a while, and like it going through my hair, and I was like, I just feel like connected, and I feel like literally alive. Like it just little things like that, or like sometimes this really specific way it gets cold in Minnesota makes me think of home, and like the way that the snow falls sometimes. I'm like, I don't know.
It makes you think of that little burb.
That little bird.
Yeah. It's definitely what is that called when you just kind of like certain things make you like take you back to a time.
Yeah.
What is that called? There's a word for that.
Nostalgic?
Yes, nostalgic. There we go.
Yeah.
There it was. So you've been talking about your tour. You toured with Nickelodeon. How about tell me too, what are you let's rewind. I want you to tell me, you told me you worked at Trader Joe's. What are you working on right now? Before we dive deeper into it, what else you have going on? You said before the pandemic hit, what was Maya doing?
So before the pandemic hit, I was doing, and the tour with Nickelodeon is like kind of funny to me. Have you ever heard of Paw Patrol?
Yeah, my nephews love it.
Yeah, it was Paw Patrol Live. So I was Zuma.
Oh my gosh, how cute are you?
It was very fun.
So you got cast as one of the pups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna lie. The only name I know is Chase. That's one of them, right?
Most popular.
Yeah.
But I did that for the year after a month after I graduated. I just left and did that. So that has kind of like been the past thing before the pandemic. But I also was writing for a nonprofit called Mixed in America about being a mixed person in America, and when a lot of my writing, it was mostly kind of like tackling like pop culture things, and like I like to make people like just like think and be a little uncomfy. I think that's good, but then also feel like comforted and have humor in there. I love a multi-layered piece.
Yeah.
Right. I really love dance. I really miss dancing. It's kind of interesting that you're asking this, because having so much time away from like theater and the arts and like singing for audiences, and like being an actor and an artist, like I feel like I have had to find parts of myself that are not just like an actor or an artist. Like I'm like delving deeper. But then now that I haven't done it, it's so hard to be like, oh yeah, like I actually did that, or like I do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's been such a long time.
So what do you, I mean, I don't know if, I would hate to make you choose if you love them both, but like, what do you love more, dancing or acting, would you say?
Uh,
Or is it just kind of like meshed? They're
I
both,
think I think acting is the basis of everything. So like if you're singing, you should also be acting or at least telling a story. Is
yeah,
what I mean.
yeah,
That, you know? So I guess as long as they're melded together.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
when did you realize that that's what you wanted to get into? Like, well, just even the arts, right? Because I mean, it's pretty easy to tell, like, if you're more of a like a sciencey person or an arts person. When did you realize that?
Well, my dad's a band teacher,
Right.
so you know, used to just be singing around the house. I have like a lot of memories of like having like weird instrumental music playing through the house and me like sprinting to it. So
Okay.
like that's like a hyperactive kid that like loves music and just like needs an outlet right there. And I remember like writing plays with my cousins when we were little, or like I had a little handheld like mic thing with the tape that there's like actual tape recordings at my house of me
Yeah.
like for hours just like, and I know
Love
it's surprising, I love to talk, just like
it.
talking and like reading stories and like singing songs, and I sound like a cartoon.
On
Like it's amazing.
purpose, or you just did it?
No, I
That's
just know my voice just sounds like
I don't think you sound like a cartoon. I'm not to say you can't take a animated role if you ever wanted to, because I think it would go if you wanted to. Not shading that at all.
I'm glad you don't sound like a
so
character.
so obvious so obviously like your dad played a huge role in you identifying that at least, huh?
Yeah, and like I don't know, the whole aspect of theater of like it's so cool to kind of be able to escape or just play, like
Totally.
just play and be with people, and it's such a connection, like whether you're singing in a choir or just this, the collective like effervescence of it all is like so beautiful to me, and I love that. I think that's what it is.
That's really, yeah, definitely interesting. I feel like I admire people. It's like it takes a lot of courage to just kind of get up and look silly, like get risk, like playing around in front of everybody. And really, because you could tell people who are authentic and people who are still kind of like holding back, So to truly
Yeah,
live in that, that's
there's
pretty
people
awesome.
that I really admire that like let go. It's like the art of letting go
Yeah.
is so, I still am working on it. I'm so afraid all the time, like like fear I think is such a thing that I'm learning to not let rule me,
Yeah.
just in that.
Okay, do you have a specific instance where there was a like a memory maybe of like a defining moment of when you chose not to let fear get in your way of just kind of like going
Mm,
for it?
um, I I remember it was like the first time I went to New York, and I went to like an audition, like
Yeah.
a big New York audition, and I remember knowing that I was like so horrified, but I was like, nah, but like don't show it. Like, no, you're like cool, like you belong here, and just
Yeah.
like fighting that scared feeling. And it really is kind of like the fake it till you make it mentality, and that's
Mm.
what I do a lot of the time. But it's like it's fun. So I think that just like my first audition, and I remember like stressful things were happening. Like I had a jumpsuit on, and the shoulder thing popped off like right before I was going on, and I was like, not this.
You're all cool, cool, cool.
Like cool, 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 cool. Maybe. So I like went in with like safety pinned up, like shaking on the outside. But then you strut in and you just act like you belong there. And then I believed it, and that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, and how did it go? How do you feel it went?
It went well. That's how I got the Paw Patrol job.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Ugh, I love that, bearing the lead there. That's awesome. I see. That's so great. Ugh. Okay, and also I want to just rewind.
Yes.
Well, just to kind of touch back to it, your pronouns, you said that you felt more seen with they.
Mm-hmm.
Realized I've been calling you girl, ma'am. Is that
Oh, but hey.
okay? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to be respectful. I'm like, oh my gosh, she literally. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. Um, so talking like so then we'll now let's circle right back to where we were. Um, talking
Appreciate
about your
that.
theater experience, your acting.
Mhm.
You said you graduated. So you graduated pretty recently, then, huh?
Yeah, I graduated in the spring of 19.
Wow. From what university?
Viterbo University. I bet you've never heard of it. It's really small.
Is it in Minneapolis?
It's in Wisconsin, which is a place I never thought I'd return to because when I go to Wisconsin, I look around, I'm like, nobody looks like me. I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
What made you go to
But
that school?
okay, so there's like this thing called Unifieds, and there's one in Chicago and New York and LA, Texas, and all these musical theater schools go. And I remember also like looking up like top music theater schools in the country,
Okay.
and Viterbo is one of the top 30. And I remember just auditioning it. Like, I think when you audition, also it is like if you like the school, it's like interviewing. Like if you hate the place you're interviewing, you probably shouldn't go there. And I
Right.
remember going into the room and being like, oh, like these people are great. Like I feel comfortable. I'm laughing. It just seemed like a place I really wanted to be.
Okay.
Cool.
And
Like
there
I
you
like
are.
really had a gut feeling and I really trusted it.
And it was top 30, you said?
Yeah.
And so that's also a big deal. Like
It was
top 30.
I was very excited that they wanted me in.
So they clearly the feeling was mutual.
It was really great. Yeah.
And so you graduated and you're in the workforce now, adulting. Here we go. Here we are. Um, if you if you could try to like just I mean we talked about it. Life is full of constant growth, development. What what aspect of Maya would you say has grown the most? Like your acting, or I mean, not even acting. We don't have to talk about just that, but like, what part of Maya do you think has grown the most? Just
Um, I think my authenticity has grown, and that's been like pretty recent. Like,
what do you think caused it, or like kind of set it off?
um, I think okay, so I can complain for years about social media and how I think it's like horrible and it stresses me out, but I also think that it's like pretty radicalizing for a lot of people. I think it is a way to have really fast representation and you can see people just like you or you can talk to people and share. And I actually think social media has done a lot of that help, which is really interesting. I think it's been really good. And then also just a lot of alone time and reflection that I've been able to do over COVID, but not in a way that's like obsessive. Because I used to do it in an obsessive way and be like, I need to pinpoint everything that's wrong with me and fix this and fix this. And now I'm just kind of letting myself exist.
And how does that make you feel? Like, how do you know, kind of moving forward, how is that? How do you see yourself growing, developing on this path, like in however many years to come? When you're, let's say, when you're 33, where do you see Maya in 10 years?
Oh my God. That is okay. So my mind is like constantly like running and sprinting, and I want to do a million things.
Sure.
Um, and I think I'm just gonna like do it and let that happen.
You're like, can you
um,
not stress me out, please?
um, oh, that is such a good question. I'm gonna answer it in an obscure kind of way, as maybe I've been doing. But I think about um, when I think about me in the future, I think about someone who I admire a lot, who is Tracy Ellis Ross,
Okay.
because She is very, very joyful. Um, I think she really like is such an essence of like Black joy and like women being unapologetically joyful. And I love that she's a fashion icon. I really love that. She's an actor. She has her own hairline. Um, she's in she's in a show. She's in a movie, singing. I mean, she's just has done so much and continues to. And I feel like she doesn't like let like an age stigma stop her, or like I'm a woman so I can't do this stop her. I don't have like a whole family because the world says I should at this age of a woman. Like she just kind of like exists and does that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you literally can do so many different things. Like so many truths can exist at once about you. And I think by the time I'm 33, that's what I want to be. Like I want to be more multifaceted, maybe more like direct and focused because I'm kind of all over the place right now.
Well, but you know what? I don't think you're all over the place. You're just not giving you the societal expectations of answers. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. Like the the expectations that you think people give, other people maybe not, like obviously because you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'm giving the answers. But it's because, why is it? It's because everybody's always so polished, right, when they're answering questions, and it's like it's almost like, for me at least, right, I've interviewed people before, so I can tell when someone's stiff and not really being truthful. Like, so I appreciate your honesty and you're just feeling it, literally. That's what I would prefer that a million times over.
Honestly, is so important.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. Who knows what that means? I have like a list of dreams, but I can't say them out loud. I have to keep them a secret
Because
to
is it like
myself.
a superstition thing?
Absolutely.
I feel it. I feel it.
Well,
Um,
like let everyone know yet. You'll just find out and be like,
I'm kind of like that too. I'm like, oh, people are like, oh, Crystal, what do you want to do? And I'm all, it's not
I'm
your
like, why you
business.
want?
It's not your business. My business. Who's asking?
Like I'm like, nah.
So, what would you say you're passionate about then, huh? Like, what is something you're passionate about that you want to just, I mean, I guess work toward, you know?
Yeah. I'm passionate about so many things. It's painful.
Give them all to me. Give them all to me.
So I have been recently, yeah, I've been very, very passionate about like community care. And like over the summer, I don't even remember what my title was called. That's okay. I was the director of outreach.
Okay.
I should have known. The director of outreach of a collective called Emerging Artists Initiative, and
Okay.
we fundraised, I don't even, oh my gosh, my memory is going away.
It's okay. It's about you.
Um,
You don't have to
we,
give me the stats. You can round. You can round.
I don't remember how much, but we raised a lot of money, like
Okay.
a lot of for struggling artists, just in a month. I wish I could give you the number because I'm like very proud of it, but just know it's like a number you'd be like, wow, that was a great job. But we raised a lot of money for struggling artists that had been displaced due to the pandemic, and we provided like mental health resources, and we featured some people's art. I had a newsletter that went out for a couple months monthly because I love writing and just sent stuff out. So things like that, of like literally taking care of the community and the people that you're with, because I really wholeheartedly believe that like we take care of us and we have to, and like we are really all we have.
Are you talking about
So that
humans or artists?
humans.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I was like,
That one in particular was just for artists,
yeah. Okay.
but like, I just think that everybody, like, I don't know, like having if you have disposable income, like how much of that can you donate directly to a Black trans woman, to a homeless person, like keeping a houseless person, like I don't know, I just think it's so important. Like keep some dollars in your pocket, or keep a blanket in your car that you know you never use and like you can give out. Like I just think the little things like that are really, really important. And it's not gonna like fix anything. I think it's also important to think of the little things, because sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, I can't fix the world. So then I shut down and do nothing.
Yeah.
But it's like you can make tiny differences. Um, Sometimes you ask me a question and then I just talk and then I forget.
It's okay. It's all right. That's why I'm here. Because we're just talking. We're just talking. All right. Well, and literally, you gave me all that. And all I asked was, what are you passionate about?
And I talked into oblivion, and then
But
I
you
was
know,
like, oh.
you talked about that particular,
Mm-hmm.
which is uh giving back, right? You said
Yeah.
you're the director of outreach
Mm-hmm.
for, so like, what does that relate to your passion? Just kind of
The passion of
the
community care
community.
and
There we go. That's what it was. The community.
care
So
of each other. And then I'm like obviously passionate about like singing and music, and I miss it so much. Like I'm just constantly dreaming and performing in my home, in my
yeah,
tiny apartment. The whole building probably knows, and I just miss it.
I was just gonna
Um,
say, do you just randomly like sing sometimes? And
Absolutely. I love doing laundry in my building because the laundry room is like really echoey. So I'll be like performing in there. Ah,
I love that.
it's so
So,
fun.
well, you got to keep it. You got to keep you got to keep yourself feeling good. Yeah,
Keep
and
it warm.
exactly. Well, and keep your that too. I'm talking about more your spirit. You got to keep your spirit.
Spirit alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just passionate about like words and writing. I think words are like so incredible and what they can do. I like
1000.
writing because like jumble and talk so much. So sometimes it's best to just write, and then I can like stitch together things that actually make sense. That's why I'm a writer.
And then you can write about other things you're passionate about.
Yeah. And it all connects. It's so cool.
Life hack.
Crystal life.
Well, yeah. Well, and so talk about, because obviously I did see some of your works of some of your writing about your just like race and right, talking about, I mean, literally, that's so funny that you said you wrote for a, what was it called, mixed, what, yeah, like it's literally in the title. Talk about some of this, talk about some of your work, like your writing work, at least, that you should be proud of, or
Um, let's see. I So for Mixed in America, we had some pieces I was pretty proud of that were about like the way that like Black women are portrayed in media, which I stemmed from a research project I did in college that was all about like the Black existence and the way and like ethics of media, and like what we've been taught about Black people specifically. And then I went specifically into Black women and like just all of that and like just the tiniest things that are put into our mind because you saw an image on a billboard and then you saw that over and over again and your brain coded that as like this is the truth about this. I
Mhm.
hope that made sense. um so like that is something that I write about. Sometimes I just like to write blog posts that are like, hey, like I like to write about mental health and be like, hey, like it's okay, like like pieces that truly are bringing comfort to me, but I know that someone else may need it too. And just political things,
Yeah.
I guess. Well, that shouldn't be political. Things that are like identity and like being Black, being queer shouldn't be political, but it is. So, writing about
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. And when you, obviously you're passionate about writing, so it just comes, it flows out of you. So it's not like you're like, oh, you have this necessarily like an agenda or whatever. But obviously you there's a purpose behind everything, right? So to like,
Mhm.
for me, I want to live on purpose, right? Like with, you want to walk in with, there's an intention behind everything, right? You, hopefully people are thoughtful enough to realize that even if they're not being thoughtful, right, there is something is being perceived out there. So whether you're aware of it or not, you're putting something out there. Right. So with your writing, with your words, as you said, which I always say that, like, words are so important. What do you hope to do? What do you hope to do for anybody who may come across your words?
I like to think that, or to sort of aspire to be able to write a piece that can like create a world for someone for a moment, and like whatever world they need, whether it's like safety, an escape, an understanding, a laugh, like to just kind of create a little a stop in a moment of time for them.
Okay. That's good. Nice. That and look, see, you gave me a nice, concise, thoughtful answer.
I know. I was like, oh, she's done talking.
You're like, wait, am I done? Hold on, am I? Am I?
Another human about these things in so long that I'm like, boom, boom, boom. It's like coming out.
I love that. Let's see, what do I want to ask? I'm not even looking at, well, now I am, but I was just like thinking, what else do I want to ask you? You did talk about this already. You touched on it at least, but as far as like kind of you said it was growing up in your neighborhood, there wasn't anybody really that looked like you, right? What do you think young Maya would take from today's Maya? Like, what would she think of her? And what was she even thinking, maybe, if you could remember what young Maya was doing?
Being acting a fool.
Running around the house singing and dancing with her dad.
I think young Maya would be like proud, like so proud, or just excited. Like I think I'd be like, am I cool? Like, that's not what a cool person would say.
Yeah, no, it is. That's and if you had a message, how about today's Maya? What would, if you had a message for your younger self, what would it be?
I think it would be something along the lines of like, I'd be like whispering and I'd be like, hey, there are no rules. Like, you just keep being silly. You don't have to look like anyone else. You don't have to talk like anyone else. You don't have to dress like anyone else. What's making you happy? And that would be, I'd say it just like that.
Okay. I like it.
I'm sorry, I'm getting like silly.
I like it. Don't say sorry. Don't say sorry. Don't ever apologize. What?
I would also tell young Maya to stop apologizing for existing.
that part right there, girl.
I'd tell me that.
So you, going back again to the pronouns and how you said feels more, appropriate. When do you think that realization came? Like, kind of breaking outside of those boy or girl,
Right. Oh my gosh, within like I think the realization came like within the last year, or maybe that's just when I found more people talking about it and like for it. And I say it because I'm like, I don't even have the right words for any of this yet. I don't know, I'm unpacking a lot right now about, like gender expectations, gender like boxing, parts of me that are more masculine, parts of me that are more feminine. And very recently, it's been a lot of internalized misogyny and like, I don't know, just like two or more truths about a person can exist at once. And I know I said that earlier, but that's been a really big thing for me. And that exists within gender and sexuality. And like not everything is black and white, which is a really big thing that I would struggle with, of wanting a very clear answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like they is like you don't have to, or the pronoun they is like you can exist in something that is not within an either or. You know, some days you can dress more masculine, and some days you can feel super beautiful and feminine. And not that you can't be beautiful if you're masculine, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
just so much complex, I think, than we were ever taught to even think about. So they is helping me explore that.
Yeah. When is if can you think of a time maybe of like when you felt super aware of your gender, like, and it how it made you, how you felt it led you to be treated, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. I think people would talk to me like I was not intelligent because I am a black woman, or that's what they would see. And I don't like when people don't think I'm smart. It makes me so mad. Or not. Oh, sorry, I just got a phone call. Did it ring?
It did. It's okay. You could just start over. Go ahead and you could start that little
Oh,
blurb over. It's okay.
sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Um, oh
You
no.
were, well, you were, okay, so I'll have you start over and you'll say, well, you're not what you'll say, but you were talking about, I asked the question of when you felt really aware of your gender and how you were treated, and your answer to
Oh,
that.
right, right, right. So just being treated like, or realizing that when people looked at me and they saw a black woman, that they wouldn't listen. They would not take the time to really hear what I was saying. Or I don't like being spoken to as if I'm not intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
or people say that I'm intelligent. It really makes me mad.
Yeah.
Because I'm important, everyone should be listened to. So that made me feel super, super aware of it. And on the other end, I just think, I don't know, I'm like, you know, when you have thoughts and you're like, does everybody think this hard about like their gender and
Yeah.
like where they like fit into things, or like why my body feels like so absolutely uncomfortable being like perceived as whatever that I don't know. I'm just interested to hear how I could answer this question in like a year, because it really is really very new to me right now.
And so the fact that you're exploring this as well, like, how does that make you feel? Just kind of having this expansive thought process.
Um, I mean, I like it. I think it's like freeing. It really
Yeah.
is, because I'm opening doors to just new things that I was like, oh, that's a possibility, or like I don't know. It's just freeing because I'm not inside of so many boxes.
Totally. And so how does that impact your way of like looking at the world? How would you say?
Oh, I think it frees that too. It makes me want to, especially when looking at people, just kind of like look past all the expectations that the world and society has put upon them, like for me, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, and just kind of like abolish all of that, and like also let people exist as freely as I want to exist, and let people change and flow through whatever identity they are at the time, um, and just like kind of think more compassionately towards the world and towards people.
Yeah, I feel that.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like that's the energy you want to put out, huh? Like, just want to, I feel that totally.
At its simplest form as well, and
Say it again.
understanding kindness at its simplest form, and like understanding, I think. Yeah.
You talked about Tracy Ellis Ross being one of your role models because she just kind of, because she totally does live unapologetically. is there anybody else that they don't have to be famous or anything, but any other people who you look up to, who you admire?
I really love drag and drag queens. And there's just like famous drag queens that genuinely just are just like funny and just don't care.
Yeah.
Like I just they don't care about what other people are thinking because they're just like, nah, I know that this is right and this is me and this is what I like. It's to me, it's like that delusional confidence. I'm like, yeah, delusional confidence 2021 is what I would like to have. And I have like friends that really inspire me too, really close friends, just because I know that they're true to themselves, or I have really close friends that allow themselves to flow through identity and like forgive themselves. And yeah, and people that just are not afraid to like dream so big that it's like silly, like like say things that you're like so afraid to say that you're dreaming about, even though I just said I wasn't going to say my plan. Still not. Circles, yeah.
Are there any like whenever you're like for me, for example, like ideally, right, I would be motivated and have all this energy to be free to be who Crystal is, right, all the time. But the reality is I definitely do not, our minds catch up with us, or those ugly thoughts catch up with us, the self-doubt, things like that. Is there any, like, if that happens to you, or if you ever just like feel like, hey, I want some extra motivation or some extra like oomph, like to remind me like who the f I am, is there anything like you listen to, that you turn to, like if it's a podcast, if it's a show you watch, if it's some music, a book, whatever? Is there anything that you have like that really resonates with you?
Yes. I guess I have my best friend's name is Michael Lukens, and whenever I need to just like ground myself, he's actually the one that called me a few moments ago.
Shout out.
Shout out. So like when you're them, you're like, oh, you're reminded of who you are at the core, and I love that. But as for media wise, I have a couple movies that I just like go right back to, and I don't know how this speaks of identity, but I'm so obsessed with claymation.
Okay.
So weird and like also touching, and like it's just so weird, and I love like weird little spooky things like that just exist. Like I don't know why that makes me feel connected to
So
myself.
claymation helps you. I love that. I love that.
Maybe it's because I don't have to think about all like the horrible, sad, like political things in the world, and I can just watch some claymation. Um, and then there's a podcast I really like called "You Made It Weird."
Okay.
And it's a comedian. His name is Pete Holmes, but he's also like really like spiritual, but he's also very funny and like very authentic, and is really honest about talking about like himself and his faults and his past struggles. And I just love it. And I think it's so funny to think that like a 23-year-old like mixed girl is sitting there like feeling so connected to like a 40-year-old white man, but like he's so
You find allies and friends and all. You never know where you'll find them.
where the souls meet up.
Yep. Totally. So, too, what do you think? And this does not have to be professional. If you could pick like your proudest accomplishment, what would it be so far? Obviously, so far, because we're not done yet.
Oh yeah, we're not done yet. Ooh, my proudest accomplishment. Um, that's so hard because I always have such a hard time being proud of myself. I know it's something with my writing. Oh, I've just been over the past few months, especially in the summer through George Floyd's murder. It happened here, very close to home. for obviously for a lot of reasons, I feel most proud of the way that I was able to write so vulnerably that it reached a lot of people, and a lot of people reached out to me, and I was very proud of that. Yeah,
Oh wow, it's a big deal. That's major.
really, yeah, it was cool.
Can you elaborate a little bit? I mean, if you're comfortable just talking about, I don't know, maybe somebody's who reached out that really resonated, that really kind of touched you. If like, you know, you don't have to go too deep if you don't want to, but like, just you could talk about it a little bit.
Like, I don't know, for an example, there was one woman who she printed out one of my poems and framed it and put it in her house about like it was a poem about mental health. And yeah, I was like, that is so cool to me. Or
Yeah,
like, just of like, these are words that are like explaining how I have felt, and I've never read anything that like captured it like that before. Like, I just think that is so wild. That yeah, I just think that's so cool, and I was really proud of myself for being able to share it.
yeah, I would be proud of myself too. Vulnerability takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it really does. It's tiring.
Tell me about it. I know, girl. I know. um, so with that, how do you practice self-care when you get tired, when you're exhausted from being so vulnerable?
Okay. Woo. So I started out at the beginning of the pandemic and of the literal race war going on. And I was like a very big promoter of mental health resources. Like, here's ways to take care of yourself, take your medication, let's destigmatize these things. Meanwhile, I was like fully breaking down, like just absolutely not well, like in a very rough place. And I remember I was like probably having a breakdown, and my mom was like, these things apply to you too. And I was like, oh, I did not realize I could also practice the things I'm telling other people to do. And then more recently, maybe over the past like 4 or 5 months, I've like taken a step back from trying to like provide, and like pour out my heart and soul to other people, and like keep it kind of sacred for myself, and like build it, and not like, I don't know, I feel like I'm like coming back home to myself a little bit, and that's taking care of myself and actually using the advice that I told myself, like resting, which is still, I mean, it's so hard. I'm not like nearly not perfect at it at all, but I've taken a few steps definitely in the world of self.
Yeah. So what were some of those tips that you were telling people that you ended up incorporating?
Um, Affirmations definitely, like literally looking in the mirror and like saying out loud to yourself like good things. Um, I have one that sometimes if I'm beating myself up about something, I will like literally envision one of my best friends and then be like, I would never talk to them like that. So why am I talking to myself like that?
Mm-hmm.
And that changes. Delusional confidence is like really so funny to me, and it just helps. Um, yeah, little things, and also like making myself like eat enough, and like stop tying value to food, and just like being like, nah, you need this so you can make sure your brain works so you can be funny and charming, like that kind of thing. Just like literally staying alive.
Yeah. I'm like, you're literally, what you're telling me is so funny because it's like not funny, but it's, to me, it's like making me like haha, because I feel like too I'm barely stepping into that, like everything you're talking about, like it's, I don't know what it is, like if it's like what's been going on or whatever, but everything you're saying I'm like I do that too, because I'm like I'm you know, I told you how old I am and I'm barely learning how to do it, but that's why I'm like I don't want to be 23 again, because that girl was like mindless. I don't know what she was just like floating along. So it's pretty, it's amazing to hear you say that. It's awesome. um let's see, what else do I want to ask you? I already asked you about your role models. Okay, this is gonna be the. I'm almost done. Um, how? When do you feel the most empowered? When would you say you feel the most empowered?
When do I feel the most empowered? I feel, I don't know. I know that there's no right answer to this. And I wish this could sound, I don't know, cooler, but I feel so good when I am just like listening to my favorite songs and like lip syncing and like dancing around my house.
Okay.
Like I just feel so good, or I'm envisioning myself performing. Like it's like this is, I just feel so, and like that, those are the moments when I'm like having fun and I'm like, oh, I like myself. Like that is so cool. It's like the moments of saying those affirmations. Um, that's when I feel very empowered. And I also feel empowered seeing the people around me feel empowered. I love that. Like hyping up your friends, that makes me feel good.
Yeah. And so seeing your friends empowered.
Or
And
other just other people of color. Mm.
how would you, if you know, obviously, I mean, we all, like, as we already said, words have power, we have power. Everything we do creates some kind of wave or ripple, it affects um, everything around us. How would you say, how would you, maybe if you could, like, make your efforts to try to empower other people, like what would you do? Or I mean, and I feel like you already do that. You already talked about how your poem and your writing about George Floyd, it touched so many people. So obviously, I'm sure that made them feel seen and empowered. But how do you think you could spread empowerment, or would empower your friends or other, a person on the street?
I think right now I'm trying to find like a small answer because I think I hear the word power and I think I have to give the most like perfect, powerful answer. But I think like genuinely like make eye contact when you're talking to someone and like really, really see them as another human being that is just as complex as you and like talk to them and give them that like give them your energy. And I think that alone is so empowering because I don't think we always like really see each other.
Yeah.
And I think which is I know it feels simple compared to the word empowerment, but I think that's where it starts. And I think you got to start small.
Yeah. I love that. And as far as your sense of empowerment, who would you say was like the first person to really see Maya for who she was?
Mm.
Like who set that off for you, you think? Like believed in you before you even knew what the heck that was, what that meant?
That is such a good question. I don't know if there's one answer. I think I've just been really lucky. I mean, I'm sure there was one long ago, but I think I've just been lucky again with like my friends. I really have like a small, really close group of friends that I feel like are my family. Um, yeah, I know that's not specific, but I think it's also the people that I have like let see me too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, it's important to have I mean, you are, what is that saying? You are who you hang out with or whatever. So
oh, the five like reflect you.
say it again.
It's like the five people that you surround yourself with are the people that reflect back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like water, like
Totally. Okay. Um, and I already asked you about your advice for young Maya, or what you would say to young Maya. But what would you say to maybe other young girls or young people?
I would say speak out loud because you deserve to be listened to. You're important. Um, it's okay if you're scared. Scary is the best. It can be fun.
Um, is there anything else maybe you want to share with me, with Global Girlhood, about who you are and what you're doing in the world, in this
Um,
great big world?
who knows? I don't know. I think back just about me, back to the first sentence I said, I really ever changing and ever flowing. Like that just means a lot to me. I could I could be a different person tomorrow and have different answers. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's okay. I think we're just allowed to be where we are. Um, and that's what I would say.
Do you have any questions for me too?
What's your favorite part of the community of Global Girlhood or any
I
community that
Well, I personally, I joined.
novel and we had a little story thing and most kids turned in like 10 pages and I literally turned in like a 10 chapter book,
Really?
like just never stopping, like and then I used to journal every day for like I have like 4 or 5 journals that like for years every day I would just like write because it would kind of for my own mental health bring me back to earth a little bit. And I would make gratitude lists because if I was in a dark place it would be very helpful to like go over piece by piece of my day. um
How old were you when you started doing this?
I'm gonna say like 18,
Okay.
17. Just like really writing anything that was in my brain, anything messy, just trying to be honest on the page. And I didn't show anyone for a really long time. And then I started in college. I like had one professor, maybe this would answer the question of who saw things. And I wrote something for her and for her class, and it was like a baggage paper. And I'm pretty sure I made it like poetic or something. And it wasn't like the conventional paper because I don't like writing like conventional papers. I just think that's boring. I like there's so many more ways, so much more interesting and bring more depth to it. And she wrote back like a page and a half long response to me, and she was like, "You need. I wish I could like share this with the world." Like it was like I have it saved in a like a little box because it was really one of the first times I forgot that happened. It was one of the first times I ever was like, someone just heard me and they actually like sat down and listened and received it. It was very cool. And then I did a year and a half um, surf. It was called surf and it stood for something like summer research something, um, where I did a whole presentation in a paper about Black owned media, which I mentioned earlier. So that was like more of like academic writing, and then I still am doing my like freelance writing. And then I started like posting like pictures of my like poems and doodles to Instagram and like deleting them because I was like horrified and was like, oh no, like so scared. And then I just actually started letting them be. And then when George Floyd was murdered, the internet turned into like this absolutely like incredible place of resources happening so quickly. And I was just like, I was honestly was very, very manic, but it was the way that I dealt with it was just like writing and like fully writing, being like, people should need to understand why this is happening. And like, I know there are a lot of white people that I was the only Black person in their life. And I knew that they would listen to me, especially because I knew how to write it in a way that would make them feel comfortable, but still make them think and be uncomfortable. Like, kind of that. Just a lot of writing. Like, I don't know, but it happened on Instagram. And then my Instagram, I had a few posts that went viral. And then I started to like kind of build a platform. And then people started listening. And now I like don't write as much on it because I didn't realize. Well, now I'm employed. I was unemployed at the time because of the. Now I have a job and I can't do that
At
all the
Trader Joe's, right?
shows, yeah. But now I'm also, it is genuinely as me bringing my heart back in and nurturing it again because it was like really a kind of a manic episode of writing. So I'm learning to write and share healthfully.
So, just curious how because I'm curious about your process. Like, um, Do you, when you write, is it like you're being like very thoughtful about how you're writing right away? Or are you just like writing, getting like spilling everything out and then you go back and you fine tune it?
Yeah, I go back and fine tune it, which is why sometimes I'm so like insecure about the way that I speak, because I know that I will keep talking and then I'll take a big pause and then I'll switch here and jump here, which is what I do when I'm writing. So that's why I'm like, sometimes I think I sound a lot more, put together on the page because I've had time to go over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
English writing, I wrote for Mixed in America and then have like articles for them. So to answer the most long-winded answer.
Oh, well, I kind of like asked you the question, then I gave you like a multiple choice. So I'm very long-winded too. When I ask questions, dude, I totally am like, dude, like I'm like trying to pull it like, but I'm also speaking. I'm like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I do that. I would have so much anxiety being on live TV trying to interview people.
Oh my gosh, I had to do news interviews when I was with Paw Patrol. I was one of the spokespeople, and it's like scary.
Well, but you know what? But for you, yes, as the interviewee, totally, I can see that because you have no idea where this person is going to go. Me, I had control, but I would still be like, I mean,
Scary when you know you're in control because you're like, I have more of the chance to drop this.
right, right. And here we are today, too. um, so you're working at Trader Joe's, and is that your only job right now?
Yes, and coming soon, I will be my first like paid freelance writing with Mixed America, and then I don't know if I'm supposed to like talk about this.
You're like, I don't want to tell you.
No, I have another job coming up, but I don't know if I can talk about it, which sounds annoying.
It's just like a tease, Maya. Like, what's going on, dude?
Honestly, I don't think it's a thing.
Huh?
I'll just say, but okay, so for Paw Patrol, they're gonna film it and make Paw Patrol live and put it on a streaming service.
So basically, you guys are going to be Hamilton level. Is that what you're telling me?
Basically, it's like Hamilton but with pups.
So basically, I'm talking to a celebrity.
I love when I tell people I'm like, yeah, I work with Nickelodeon, and then I show them a picture of me in like a little helmet and like a dog costume, and they're like,
I would love to see that actually.
I will. But yeah, I think I can say that that's happening, but I don't know.
I mean, this isn't live, so it's not like this is going anywhere. So, but if you find out you can just like email me and like, don't use that footage, ma'am. Ma'am, you don't have clearance, ma'am.
No one has. I haven't seen like anyone talk about it or like post about it. So I think I'm probably not supposed to like blab my mouth about it.
So wait, so you guys are gonna be shooting it soon? So that'll be fun, huh? For you to get back to doing, huh?
In 1 week, I am getting on a plane and going to Vegas. I don't even have the flight information yet, and I found out like 2 weeks ago. Wild. So getting uprooted for a second.
How fun for you.
And it's very like it's also very like COVID friendly. Like we're literally put in a bubble when we get there, and we have to take COVID tests, and we have to have like a whole seminar of things that we cannot do. I'm sure that we just can't leave our hotel at all, which makes sense. Um,
If you could, so like you want to be an actress
yes.
or an actor, sorry, let's do actor.
Ooh, yeah.
We don't need to give them specific genders. You want to be, so ideally that's what you want to do, and just kind of be this like,
Well, but I also like I just want to sing,
okay,
like have music and have concerts and sing, or like with a live band, dance a little bit. That's the hard thing is I want to do it so many different things.
well then you can,
And you can Tracy Ellis Ross it.
yeah, basically. Anything you want. Right, too.
Like for David Glover to be a comedian, like and have like a really great album, like I'm like, what
He's a
about
comedian. I've never heard his. Does he do stand up? Oh, I didn't know that.
isn't it wild?
I mean, is it?
It's not. It shouldn't be. People are multi.
No, it's not.
Why can't I allow myself to be?
I'm gonna stop recording now just so we can talk since this